Thank you very much. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 11:20. Okay, everyone. This is our next session, and it is called Green Business in the Community. Thank you. I'll introduce our speakers, our series of speakers right now. First, we have Rick Benninghove of the Longboat Key Club and Resort, and the Longboat Key Club and Resort is a Sarasota County Green Business Partner. Next, we'll hear from Jesse White. He is the owner of Sarasota Architectural Salvage, which is also a Green Business Partner. And Jesse was named Florida Retailer of the Year and earned the Royal Award from the Florida Retail Federation. He's been in lots of publications, including ours. The third speaker is Suzanne Dameron from Line Communications. She is a public relations professional for more than 10 years, and her agency is a Green PR and cause marketing agency serving Southwest Florida. Our fourth speaker is Mike Antheil. He's with the Florida Alliance for Renewable Energy. He's the executive director, and this is a group dedicated to creating a renewable energy marketplace in the state of Florida. His efforts are including educating and engaging Floridians, including legislators, policymakers, and businesses. He's also a consultant specializing in private and public commercial finance in the clean and renewable energy industries and managing partner at Green Asset Finance. And finally, Dr. Kevan, we've already heard her described today. She's the director at Mote Center for Aquaculture Research. She is now the president-elect of the World Aquaculture Society in 2011 and has been the director of Mote's Aquaculture Center since 2001. She's directing operations at Mote's 200-acre field station and in eastern Sarasota County, and working with the Tampa Bay Partnership to develop a regional business plan for the marine and environmental activities. Let's welcome all our speakers up, please.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Rick Benninghove. I'm the Director of Resort Operations and Green Chairperson for the Longboat Key Club and Resort. It's good to be here with you. I remind you to do your part in being green and have a staycation and come out and stay with us instead of traveling around the world. But it really is like going to the Caribbean, going somewhere completely different without having to leave your hometown or home area. So we hope to see you. Just wanted to start by talking a little bit about historically with us and really highlight the Green Business Partnership of Sarasota County and what a great role it's played for us at the Longboat Key Club. Back in, I would say, late 2006, our leadership team really found that each time we got together, we started talking more and more about sustainability and responsibilities and items like that. We started evaluating what we were doing as a property, which we found we were doing quite a few things that were sustainable, but there was a lot of room for improvement, we felt, at that point. So we formed a group, our Green Committee. I was the one who didn't step back as the boss asked who wanted to volunteer, and became the Green Chairperson at that time. And I actually am very, very happy that I did. It's been a great experience for me. It's been a great experience for the property. I went out to our 65 managers of the property and asked for volunteers that would join the committee, and right off the bat we had between 45 and 50 managers who stepped up to volunteer for that. So I was very impressed with the commitment right up front from the property. So then it became, okay, how do we go from here, the steps that we take? And we made an environmental statement. We sat down and started working on our list of goals and what we wanted to do. And from that, our environmental statement for the Longboat Key Club became, Longboat Key Club and Resort is committed to sound practices for reducing our environmental footprint through water conservation, energy efficiency, waste reduction, clean air practices, and communication. Real simple. We can break that into groups, very similar to what a lot of others are. And then we started looking for resources. How do we get the state resources, local resources, etc. And we met the Green Business Partnership, Tom Franklin, who I spoke to and was looking for some help with. He came out, met with us at the property, and was extremely helpful in helping us kind of set up some guidelines on what we're looking to do. getting certified. I'm really just looking to see how we move forward. And he says, well, it's all sort of a package thing here. Let's move forward with it. And it really was that helpful. We sat and went through, he gave us some guidelines to work with, and we took a tour of the property. And I'm trying to show him, well, look, here's what we're doing with lighting, here's what we're doing with this and that. And he goes, Rick, let's go take a look at your dumpster. I go, okay. And that's what we did. We went and looked at the dumpster. We saw what was going into the waste that way. And it was really helpful. We started realizing, here's the things that we're either not recycling, here's the things that we could be reusing, those type of things. It was a big part of it for us. And that sort of become my theme over the last 5 years, was to go look at the dumpster and see what we're doing. We had a lot of questions. One was, why are we becoming green? Some businesses become green as a cost savings. Well, we found out very quickly it wasn't just cost savings, it was savings and expenses that we were working with. Some things cost more to become green. We switched 4.5 years ago all of our cups over from plastic. We switched over to the cups that are made out of vegetable oils. We, just like the cups you see here, they're compostable for coffee and that type of thing, we switched to those. It costs a little more to do that at the time. We went through challenges with reducing paper, all the things that you're used to seeing. Well, then we started becoming a little more challenged. And each step of the way, I would go to the Green Business Partnership, and they would help me give me resources. Some of you in this room that I know could help tremendously with that. And we began going into bigger projects. We started using solar golf carts on the property, those type of things that we worked with. Programmable thermostats in our public areas, etc. We went from there, and we have a fairly good set of development that's coming up, and our goal is with that is to build a green, really look at that, really evaluate it. And so by us working on this the past several years, it's giving us a lot of tools to get started with that. There's a lot of things that we do that I'm proud of. One is that our food and beverage department works with local farmers, and they go out and visit the farms, and they bring a lot of the produce that we're using right from the local farmers, and they work closely with them. Some of these farmers are growing specific items for us that are unique, which is really fantastic. And I promote all of you to do that. You should be looking local for the things that you're using. We, on our golf course, we are using a lot more natural items to work with our golf courses on the property, and they look better than they've ever looked. So it is, a lot of people are scared to make that move to a greener environment, but it really does pay off, and it is the best way to go. One of the things, where we come from, where we go to, what else can we do? Let's keep looking forward. I went back and this year and looked at our dumpsters again. Okay, what do we still need to do? Well, hotels, as you know, have a lot of soap and a lot of shampoo and things like that get wasted. When the guest comes in, they use those items, and they may leave them behind. They go right into the dumpster and right out to the landfills. Well, it seems like, what can we do with that? Well, you can actually reuse that, but let me explain how. We found we were able to collect those items and we put them into recycling containers. Bars of soap that are slightly used, shampoos, that type of thing. We work with a program that's based out of Orlando called Clean the World. We send them to them, and they take them, and they will actually sanitize them and re-prepare them, and they send them out to third world countries who don't have that type of a thing to work with, and they save lives. There are diuretic type diseases become a big issue for people around the world, and just by not having the tools, not having soaps and that type of thing, it kills a lot of people. And so for 5 million people between the ages of 0 and 7 years old die from that annually. And so this program, the goal is to save over 1 million lives. So to me, that's a pretty powerful thing, to take something that was in our dumpsters, that was going to the landfills, and turn it around and to get it there. And for that, again, I want to thank the Green Business Partnership, because to me, that's what gave me the idea to go look at our dumpsters and figure out what we can do. And they did a great job for me, and even if you're a green business that's out there promoting green, selling green products, etc., still look at your business and decide, are you green? Are you working green within your business? You can still work out with the Green Business Partnership, and that's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, I'm Jesse White, and I'm the owner of Sarasota Architectural Salvage, and we opened in 2003. We're a retail store. We have about 10,000 square feet under roof and 2 huge side yards filled with wrought iron and cast stone pieces and a lot of fun stuff. And I just was curious, has anyone here shopped at Sarasota Salvage?
Cool.
Okay, well, it's been it looks like about 80 to 90% of you guys have been there, so I really want to thank you for your vote of confidence. And you know, we're talking about green jobs, and that, of course, you know, we've been talking about this for years. You know, vote with your dollars and vote with where you shop, and so we really appreciate that you're choosing to come to Sarasota Salvage. We built our business based on antique, unique, and handcrafted materials, and we started with, you know, the idea of going into buildings that are coming down and then salvaging usable materials and selling them. We found that there is a market for that, but there's a larger market for recrafting a lot of those materials into new things. And if you click on the Made from Salvage, which is this is some of the examples of some of the things we're doing. So we're taking flooring and making them into tables. We're taking shutters, we're making them into vanities, and different things like that. So I started this sort of era in graduate school, which was in 1992, which I did the math, it's almost 20 years ago. And so at that time, you know, eco and green meant more money and more cost, you know, with possibly a savings, with possibly an advantage. Starting Sarasota Architectural Salvage, the idea was, you know, we can do green, we can build green jobs, and we can offer it at a competitive marketplace, you know, price. And so, you know, that's what's green for us, and that it's the inventory. You know, it's inherently green. We're keeping things out of the landfill. We also, the stuff that we have that is reproduction, we try to filter it and say, okay, does it have recycled content? Is it made by mom and pops? Is it, you know, does it have some kind of durability and sustainability so that it's going to last a long time? And so filtering it through those filters enables us to sort of say, okay, yeah, this is more greener than something else that we might do. Let's click on another one of our headings here, maybe just in new items at the top there. So, you know, salvage actually creates a lot more jobs than demolition. You can get on Traco and you can, you know, knock down the building in about a half a day. It might take you 3 days to deconstruct and salvage the materials in that same house. So, you know, this is one of those, it's a green job, because then those materials are available for the next generation or the next person to come in to make choices about how to use those materials. And that's what sustainability is. It's giving our next generation, you know, the chance to make those same decisions that we're making about resources. You know, another thing about green business, you know, you're talking about creating jobs, is green practices. And let's see here. One of the things that for us has been a really big part of the concept of green, although I don't know if it's exactly falls in there, but it's getting involved with the community. And just during the break, I went around and I put on everyone's table a little flyer here about our charity events. You know, and this is one of the things that we do with the community to bring in, to raise awareness about local organizations that are doing good work in our community, and to create a fundraising opportunity for them, and also to introduce people to our store who might not otherwise have heard about us, or might not otherwise, you know, they've heard about us but they've never come in, so it gives people an opportunity to do it. So that's, I see as, you know, working with the community as part of this whole green jobs, you know, strategy. The other thing you get to do as a small business where, you know, you're a chief cook and bottle washer, you can also make a lot of decisions on the fly. And we try to create, you know, the jobs themselves are kind of green jobs. For 4 years, I had one employee who biked to work 4 days a week. You know, in Sarasota, he took his life in his own hands every day, but, you know, he did do that. And so creating this green kind of environment for employees, I think, is a key thing, too. And all sorts of businesses have those opportunities. You know, it's funny, even something as simple as providing filtered water. You know, we had the water bottles, you know, that were coming in. Because we had nothing, then we had water bottles. You know, I said, I drink tap water. Everyone can drink tap water, right? But, you know, it increased the quality of the working environment to have cold filtered water. And so it was a really simple, easy thing to do. It sounds like a no-brainer, but it was a big deal, and we did it. And a lot of businesses can there's a lot of small things you can do to sort of green your workplace and make it a more fun and green kind of place to work. Okay, I'm almost out of time, but I wanted to give you another shout out of an experience of if you want to see our work, about how to make things work economically and create green jobs. In the current Biz 941 on page on page 19, the CoverGirl's store, she used some of our stuff in her store. And also on page 20, there's a great wall of salvage beadboard that they used at Padalini's on Main Street. And this was one of those examples of we created jobs to take that beadboard out of the house, and then we salvaged it here locally, and then it went into a local business. And so keeping that all in the community, using local labor at both ends of the scale, just expands on what we're able to do. So thank you very much.
My name is Suzanne Dameron. I'm the president and CEO of Line Communications. We're a full-service PR and marketing agency with a special focus in green and environmental projects, which to us means both projects in both the built and the natural environments. I've been running an independent local public relations firm for more than 10 years in Sarasota, and we've been fortunate to work with some really great green projects in our community. I've served co-chaired the Seawater Committee with Tim Rummage for the past 3 years, and we've done some great stuff in our committee. I was one of 9 judges selected to serve on the Collins Center Green Schools competition last year. And there was some really fantastic stuff going on in our schools. The age range that I was assigned to was 8th grade and below. And so you would think, how much can be done? But in fact, they were doing some marvelous projects. There were some repeat projects, and the kids who had started out in 1st grade and now they're in 4th grade and they were repeating, it showed such a growth and understanding of how things work in our environment, how our built environments affect the health of our natural environment. It was a really difficult job that I was asked to do on that, is determining who is the best. The kids who went to school in LEED certified schools, their projects stood head and shoulders above any other projects in the entire state of Florida. So it shows, going back to what Jesse is saying about creating a green environment and letting it ripple out, absolutely, that showed itself in this competition. We're currently working on the Sarasota Audubon Capital Campaign for a LEED certified nature center at the Celery Fields. The Celery Fields is a 300+ acre preserve out there on the other side of the other side of 75, where Fruitville goes. And it's a marvelous place. If you haven't been out there, it's the superstar of the bird world if you're into birding, and it's a great place to bike and canoe and spend some time in nature. I thought that I would talk today a little bit about green business and traditional business and some of the differences. If you're in a traditional business, you need to know your industry and what's unique about it. What you need to know your business and what's unique about it. You need to know your audience and what is unique about it. In green business, you need to know your industry and what's unique about it. You need to know your business and what's unique about it, and you need to know your audience and what's unique about it. So, where does that specialization come in? We can start with the green industry. The green industry is constantly evolving. Look at where we were 5 years ago, look at where we are today. There are so many components to the green industry, and you can see that on the panel here. We've got the owner of a green business, we've got Mike, who's working for Renewable Energy, we've got Dr. Kevan, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, who's the director of the Aquaculture Research Center at Mote. All of the panelists here represent some of that diversity. And again, the unique thing about it is that we're constantly changing and nothing is staying the same. Not only do we have a green industry, but we're moving to a green economy. So within, you've got all this change going on in each segment, and then you've got the whole thing, which is moving towards trying to create this green economy. And of course, it's not a linear process. Okay, so then you look at the business, and you're talking about the different individual businesses and what makes them unique. There's a lot of different questions that you have to ask yourself to get at that. And who else is doing something similar? Where does the cost of your products and services come in? Do you have a product or service? And then you move into your audience, and what is your audience like? The green consumer is one of the most interesting features of the green market, because you can have great products and you can have great services and you can have all these things, but the green economy is really a lot about the green consumer. The green consumer has been kindly characterized as schizophrenic. We buy the Prius, but our second car is the SUV. 72% of us say the environment is really important and it's really important to buy green, but only 13% of us buy because it's green. So we constantly have these shifting values and these shifting priorities. And so then it comes down to what is your business and what are the characteristics of your market and your audience within that context. And of course it changes. And it changes based on, you know, as the economy has shifted over the years, then the green values of your market shift as well. And for those of you who haven't checked on Facebook recently, but 64,000 people in Sarasota County say on Facebook that the environment is their area of interest. So that might open your eyes to some of the things you could be doing with social media as well. I see that I only have a few seconds left, so I will close with that. And I wanted, with a couple of comments based on what other speakers have said. And I looked a lot at the Global Urban Institute before I came here today. And what I want to support is their call for a vision that would come from our community. When the EDC revised their strategic plan, they made it an asset-based plan. In other words, they're not filling a hole, they're basically changing the economy of what we already have. And so we're building on that. I think that we can do the same thing. I think that the green features in our community are our assets. And the people and the businesses and the organizations are our assets, and we can build on that. And I think our next step is to create this common vision. Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Mike Antheil. I am the Executive Director of the Florida Alliance for Renewable Energy. The acronym is FAIR. Hopefully a lot of you have heard of who we are. We are the largest renewable energy trade association in the state of Florida. We're certainly the most active. We have about 200 business members, about 5,000 supporters. If what I have to say makes sense and you haven't heard of us prior to today, I'd encourage you to go to our website, fairenergy.org, and sign up. We have an extremely active communication database, and we keep you pretty well up to date with exactly what's happening on a legislative level, on a state level, and a federal level. And there are times where we have to act as a group, not just this community acting in Sarasota, but acting in concert with the rest of the communities that are just like yours across the state, where we have to put pressure and get a message through to our legislators, and hopefully you'll join us in doing that. I am, in effect, a lobbyist. Please hold your booze. I say that to illustrate that I am, smack in the middle of the trenches of what's happening in Tallahassee and what is preventing the renewable energy market from becoming more widespread than it is today. There are a lot of good things happening in the state. This event right here, this community right here, is a shining example of what is good in the state. But there are also some very serious challenges to renewable energy, and our job is to overcome them. In a nutshell, what we believe in is what's called distributed generation. Distributed generation means solar on every rooftop. It means biomass on every farm. It means wind facilities where it's applicable. It means the types of solutions that are here today, energy efficiencies in the houses, and renewable energy in some way, shape, or form on every property in the state. Obviously we recognize that solar farms, I always touch on that topic since it's right across the way, is a great way to implement renewable energy. We applaud FP&L for their leadership. At the end of the day, though, it's only part of the equation, and we need to see distributed generation being part of that equation as well. As a ratepayer for Florida Power and Light, and I know most of you are, I paid for that solar farm, and it's critical to know that if I'm paying for renewable energy, that I also have a chance to participate in that market. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in Tallahassee. We believe, well, not even we believe, it is proven that distributed generation of renewable energy will create significantly more jobs than concentrated solar generation. You can only imagine taking that same 25 megawatts that's out in DeSoto and distributing it amongst approximately 10,000 rooftops in the area would create significantly more jobs and keep more money reinvested locally. We believe this year the angle, no, I shouldn't even say the angle, the paradigm through which we're kind of viewing this legislative session is the concept that has swept through the nation recently, which is the concept of a free market. It's something that everybody believes in, but it has been front and foremost recently, and that's something that we're embracing, a free market for renewable energy. And what a free market means is that if I install solar and I want to use that solar for myself, I can do that today. But if I want to sell that electricity to my neighbor, that I should be able to do that. And today, in the state of Florida, you cannot do that. It means that if I put a wind farm in my community, that I should be able to sell the electricity that I create to the local community, to my neighbors, and so on. And today, in the state of Florida, you can't do that. And it means that if I produce renewable energy and I can sell it to the electricity grid at a more reasonable price than the current electricity production, that I should be able to do that. And again, today, in the state of Florida, you cannot sell to the grid at a remotely profitable price. So that's what we're going to talk about. We also support other policies that are maybe a little bit more long-term. Renewable portfolio standard, of course, is on the tip of everybody's tongues. I wish I could tell you it's going to happen in Florida, but it's just not this year anyway. Renewable portfolio standard means that you put a quota on how much energy has to be produced from renewables. We also support a property tax exemption. I know I'm running out of time, but hopefully I'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit. That's something that we need this community to be active on this year. It passed by the voters in 2008, and the legislature has failed to enact something that the voters approved. And all it says is that if I put solar on my rooftop, that my property taxes assessments won't go up as a result of that. And the legislature has failed you as voters to implement something that you already approved. And it's going to come back again this year. We need you to put pressure on your legislators. And of course, PACE initiatives are also local. I know that there's been some conversations in Sarasota. We need to amp those conversations up here. Miami, I hate to tell you, is leaving you in the dust because they are, on this one issue, I should say, they are implementing PACE programs and they're rocking and rolling. So we've got to find a way in Sarasota to catch up with them. So last but not least, I know I'm out of time here, but we actually have a bill that we just filed yesterday. It's the first time I've ever announced that, and we put it out on our email distribution list. But the bill is just that. It basically says that if I produce energy and I want to sell it to my neighbor, that I should be able to do that. And then there's some other permutations with that as well. But it's a very exciting bill. Representative Rachel Bergen, right up the road, is sponsoring it, and Senator Thad Altman of the Space Coast is sponsoring it as well. One more thing. For those of you, I was actually a keynote at an event in Charlotte yesterday, and I explained to them that I'm in like an ultra truth-telling mode these days. So if you have questions about what's really happening in Tallahassee, I'd love to give you some.
Good morning. I'm Kevan, and I'm the Director of Aquaculture Research at Mote Marine Laboratory. Mote Marine Laboratory, this is Sarasota, so I think most people know, but sometimes I think that people really think we're just an aquarium. But Mote Marine Laboratory is a 57-year-old research laboratory that started out 57 years ago trying to understand and conserve our oceans. And certainly that is part of what a green community is about, is having good oceans and the animals that live in them. And I'm the director of a facility that isn't at the Mote that everyone knows. It's out east of Interstate 75 on Fruitville. It's the Mote Aquaculture Park, where we're working to develop sustainable technologies to conserve our ocean resources using the tool of aquaculture. So until the early 1990s, people thought that we were going to get all the food that we were going to eat from the oceans, and aquaculture was relatively unheard of. It was certainly in this country, it was very small and not well recognized. But in the 90s, we realized that the oceans were becoming depleted and the fisheries were disappearing, and that we were going to have to develop other tools to be able to supply that needed seafood. And today it is expanded enormously around the world. It is now over 50% of the seafood that we eat is produced through aquaculture, but unfortunately less than 5% of that is produced in the United States. And having worked in this field for more than 25 years, I keep hoping that we're going to expand. I've been working throughout my career to expand seafood production in the United States, and in more recent years, through the use of environmentally sound, economically feasible technologies, and that's what we're working on at Mote. And so we're doing that through a combination of research to develop the technologies and demonstration of that technology on a commercial scale at our facility. And so I'm also, in addition to the director of the center, the research center, I run our marine aquaculture research program, where we're working on designing and testing what we call zero discharge or 100% recycled technologies for marine farming at areas away from the ocean. And we're doing that with a variety of fishes, where we're producing those fish both for consumption and to restore the declining fisheries. So species such as snook and red drum, our goals are to increase those populations in the oceans, and for things like pompano, sturgeon, and other species, we're looking at trying to produce those animals so that we can provide them as a food resource. And one of the new exciting projects that we have going out at our facility is this project. You might have seen some publicity on it called the Pompano and Plants Project, where we're producing both seafood and wetland plants for restoration. And we're doing that in a completely enclosed recycling facility. You can see some of the tanks up in the upper right-hand corner, where we're growing Florida pompano, and then in the lower picture, we're producing wetland plants in cooperation with a private business, Aquatic Plants of Florida. And this project is less than a year old, and we produced over 1,000 plants that have been moved into wetland restoration projects around the state of Florida, red mangroves, spartina, black needlerush, saltwort, other species that are all being grown at our facility in demonstration to show people how you can produce that seafood and also produce a secondary product that's using the nutrients coming out of the seafood production system. Our sturgeon project, which I hope people have heard about, and I hope that some people have eaten sturgeon in this room, is working on developing and demonstrating that technology at a commercial scale. And we're working with an exotic sturgeon species called Siberian sturgeon, and our goal in that area is to produce that seafood so that we can stop the harvest of the endangered and threatened species. And so sturgeons all around the world are on the endangered species list, and what we're trying to do is offset that commercial harvest or poaching that's going on with the production of that product. And so we're doing that through our sustainable production systems. And here we are talking about green technologies. Look at that, I even have green tanks. Wasn't that great? I have the perfect picture here. Green tanks, we even have some green water down below, where we're filtering and sterilizing that water. Design is a critical part, and Tim talked about that in his talk earlier. Designing a system where you can move that water with the least amount of energy is a critical part of making this whole operation work without breaking the bank on the electric bill. And then our goal is to then market those products locally and throughout the country to provide a safe and sustainable seafood resource. And we're doing that with our both sturgeon and caviar that come out of this operation. Another thing that I was thinking about when we were talking is there were some questions about developing this through the educational system, and we have a partnership with Riverview High School through their Cousteau Academy to assist them in training students in the principles of sustainable aquaculture. And also they're putting in a facility there where they're planning to produce both fish and vegetables in their freshwater production system, and then wetland plants in their saltwater production system. So we're moving this from the research scale to the educational scale and getting that information out into the younger generation, which we absolutely need to do. And then in a couple of weeks out at Mote Aquaculture Park, we'll be doing our annual kids fishing clinic that we do in conjunction with our Snook research program. It's called the Shindig Clinic. And we'll have over 90 children from the ages of 5 to 15 participating in that clinic, learning about sustainable fishing practices, sustainable aquaculture, and the importance of maintaining those resources and why we need to be doing that. So that's the comments that I have, and I'll be happy to answer other questions from the panel.
Well, unfortunately, in because of time, we're not going to have any questions from the floor, but I'm sure these panelists will stay afterwards and answer any questions that you may have about aquaculture or starting a green business or all the inside gossip on what's happening on the television. So let's thank these wonderful business experts. Okay, for our final session, I was going to say this morning, but it's about a minute after noon now. It's Deep Home Energy Retrofits, Challenge and Progress to Date. Our speaker is Dr. Subrata Chandra. He is a senior buildings engineer with the U.S. Department of Energy Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. He is currently managing research projects to significantly increase the energy efficiency of existing and new homes funded by the U.S. Department of Energy Building America program. Prior to this, Dr. Chandra directed the Florida Solar Energy Center Building America project that provided technical assistance to factory and site builders who have built thousands of energy efficient, high-performance homes. He is nationally recognized, performing effective partnerships with industry and universities as well. Please.
Thanks to Nina for inviting me here. Great to be back here. And although I work at the Pacific Northwest National Lab, which is in Richmond, Washington, which is about as far as you can get from here, I telecommute, so I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'm going to be brief and zip on through the slides. Our objective is, we have done new homes for a while, and what we wanted to see was, it's really a science project. If you take the existing home, can you reduce its energy consumption by 30% to 50% on a whole house basis? I have looked at the literature on this, and really there aren't too many actual case studies that can be done. So it's like, okay, let's try to see if we can do this or not. And we are trying to prove the feasibility by leveraging homeowner investments or other investments who are planning a gut rehab type of an operation anyway on the house. And then we are hoping to learn, did it work? And if it did not work, why it did not work? And then transfer the results. It is a national project. We have partnered with Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and we have about 50 pilot homes throughout the nation. And fortunately, we have about 4 right here within a few miles of Sarasota, including some in downtown Sarasota. I would like to recognize the members and friends in the audience who are parts of that program. So let's start with Erica Brigham. Are you here, Erica? There you are. Thank you. And the people who are associated with Erica's house, if they would please stand and be recognized. If there's anybody, I know John Lambie was here, and he's not here anymore. So anyway, and then we have Michael Soleto, from construction manager of the Habitat for Humanity's South Sarasota County, and there he is waving his hand. And he did a pilot, and I'll talk about it in a second. And then there are 2 other projects, homeowner finance, one in CSVP, another one in downtown Sarasota. Is anybody from those projects in the audience? Nina, you should stand, because you got me involved in this, so thank you. Here is the South Sarasota Habitat for Humanity project. It's a 1,800 square foot house, which is typical of thousands of such homes in the area. And when through Calis Plus, who is a local contractor in Venice, who I work with, and he does the main heavy lifting on these projects. And FSEC, Florida Solar Energy Center, where I used to work, is actually monitoring the performance of this. So before retrofit, the air change rate in this house was 31. Now, compare that to about 5 or 6 for a new home. So this was 5 times as leaky. And one of the problems was that there were a lot of drop soffits and interior partition walls which were connected to the attic space. And this is a very common thing. And then there were big holes in the wall and other leak paths, which was letting lots of outside air in when you were trying to air condition, and you're almost trying to air condition the outside, so the energy bills are very high. Now, this house was foreclosed when Habitat got hold of it, and unfortunately, we don't know the previous owners, and so we can't get the utility bill release, and so we don't really know how much energy it consumes. But I would be surprised if it was any less than the average of about 18,000 kilowatt hours per year. So post-retrofit, Michael did a great job of putting a white roof and an unvented attic. And what the unvented attic really does is makes the house into a bubble. And when you insulate at the roof line, you are sealing all those air leakage paths from the outside by creating a canopy, of course. So the attic is now semi-conditioned, and those leak paths which were between the attic and the house are no longer there because the house has become a complete cocoon, so to say. Right? And now it is so airtight that it went from 31 air changes an hour to, I don't have that number here, it's 4 or 5 or something like that, or even less. And so you need to provide a little fresh air, and you see in the unvented attic on the top right picture, the air handler is now inside the conditioned space or semi-conditioned space. That little red thing is an electronic damper which lets in fresh air from the outside whenever the AC runs, which is a critical part of our system here, because you have made the house energy efficient, and now you have to make it healthy and also comfortable so that people are delighted by the performance of it and not killed by it like house. So we don't want to kill any people here. And great windows, which are another big component of energy efficiency in this climate, 100% CFL lighting, and we estimate that her score is 57 here, which is really, really good. For instance, a new house, which has a Hertz index of less than 60, is 1 in 1,000, right? That rate. So this is 1 in 1,000 in terms of its level of energy efficiency. And we are metering it, and we shall see what the actual energy consumptions are. And this is another house in Texas, San Antonio. We have partnership there. And again, similar situation. This house will not even have a central system. And so we went ahead and the San Antonio Green people did a complete gut rehab, and similar technologies, a little bit less actually. And this one is supposed to save between 30 and 45%, depends on how you count, because there was some substitution of electric with gas. So gas has a lower source energy content. So in terms of a source energy basis, this will probably be 45%. Again, this is being metered and will be more precise. So in the interest of time, I thank you, and I'll take a couple of quick questions.